but I am probably 3 or 4 miles north of Walden on Highway 125. That's Walden, Colorado. And there's a really cool little route that a lot of people probably know of, but it's a way to bypass Walden when you're going to Fort Collins from Steamboat, I guess. Or it's just a way to, you don't really even have to bypass Walden if you want to, but I mean, and actually, I don't know that you get, I don't think you get better time actually going on this route. But if you like the less traveled road, then this is actually a great little road. Now where we're at now, 125 goes all the way south into Walden, and then there's a little dog leg, and then it continues south to those mountains in the horizon. And that's the Rabbit Ears Range. Highway 14 meets up in Walden. It intersects this road. It comes from, well, depending on which way you're going, it comes from the southwest over towards Rabbit Ears and comes up and connects into Walden. Then it bends back down and goes to the southeast and goes over to Gould, Colorado. So it's a neat little road. I like all of these roads, by the way. I don't know that I have a favorite, but I do like, well, I prefer the less traveled roads for a lot of reasons. One of the biggest reasons is that I don't run into much traffic, and usually when I run into traffic on a dirt road, it's a lot friendlier, you know. So I'm disgusted most of the time by the way people act in traffic. They do some of the dumbest stuff. It really annoys me. That's the one thing that would make me quit this job. The other people, I like the driving. I just don't like to have to drive around or in or through or behind or in front of other people. They have so many ridiculous quirks, you know, and it seems like it's getting worse. People that get a vendetta against you because they tried to cut you off. This happened to me this morning. Guy tried to cut me off in Craig, get in front of me on the way to Steamboat. Well, we were in Craig. I was just driving. I kind of noticed the guy, but I was just driving. So he wasn't able to cut me off. And that made him mad at me. But I wasn't trying to keep him from, what am I saying? He was trying to cut me off. He was trying to do a shitty traffic thing to me. And I was just driving. So down the road a ways, he actually passed me, and then he slowed me down a little bit. I really didn't care. I wasn't really paying that much attention to him, but I understood. I mean, I understood that he might be doing something like that. And he was. I eventually passed him because he was just going slow, and I can go faster. And he was dragging his feet pretty badly. And so when I passed him, he sped up. He was going around 50, and by the time he was done speeding up, he was going over 70, so that I couldn't get around him. That really pisses me off. I mean, that is really super dangerous behavior. I do not do that to people. You know, driving like a fucking dick is probably illegal. Anyway, we're going to go this way. This is an interesting little road. So we're staying on 14. 14 basically makes this sharp angle right here. in Walden. And that's what we're doing. We're going to come down. Anyway, so this guy basically road raged me, right? And that's annoying, but it's like I blew it off. I was busy I'm busy driving and paying attention to what I'm trying to do. And they really didn't get it under my skin. However, I was just coming back from Laramie, and I passed a group of cars that were going slow. 50 miles an hour they were going. As soon as I passed all these cars, the front car decided to go a lot faster. It was about the time we got into Colorado. And so a lot of times I'll go fast just to get people off of my tail. And I had to do that with this lady. She was some lady who apparently didn't like getting past, or she wanted to follow me. I really despise that. You know, go your speed, and if someone passes you, let them go. You know, don't make it, I don't understand people. I really don't understand the pettiness of people. Like, let me pass you and get out of your way. You know, I don't want to do any more, I don't want to have any interaction any more than I have to with people on the road. Any road interaction like that is dangerous. I try to go a speed that keeps all those interactions down. So, anyway, that's not a bad view of the forest range. Well, I kind of like that. We're not seeing all of it. The clouds are hiding some. So that woman really annoyed me. I mean, that was just annoying to do. Why do you go so slow? Slow other people down for miles and miles, and then when somebody passes you, you have to get on their ass. All of a sudden, you're going fast? What changed? I mean, is just everybody mean and bitter and want to do road rage bullshit? Is that what's going on? So that gets me going. Anyway, and it's interesting too, because I was watching a video last night, and this kind of behavior reminded me of one of the guys I was watching. The guy's name is Scott Adams. He's a cartoonist. He's a big lefty. He, in my opinion only, he tries to act like he's in the center. But he always, in my opinion, he betrays himself. And to that, yesterday was no exception. He was apologizing. Or no, he was admitting that anti-vaxxers won and people that got vaccinated lost. And I thought, well, that's weird. I don't remember that being a competition. I just remember in my situation, I didn't need a vaccine, so I didn't get a vaccine. I really didn't think much more of that about it. But the left is always ready and willing to shove stuff in your face if you're a conservative. So they made a huge deal out of it, including him. And so all these people were proud to get shots. Several of the people that had bragged about getting the shot have died. That's amazing to me. It's bad. I have family members who died after getting that shot. Died of myocardial infarction. So it's not a laughing matter. But this guy was making it seem like it was some sort of competition. And he was making a point to say, well, us educated people. What he meant by that was, let me interpret what he meant by educated. He meant us people that went to college and were indoctrinated into the leftist community. That's what he really meant, but he was saying educated. And the reason that he was saying educated was so that he could contrast the word educated with the word uneducated and then point out all of us. We're uneducated. I suppose it doesn't matter how much college we have. If it's not the right kind of college, we're still uneducated. And apparently the only right kind of college for people like that is a college that turns you into a leftist. So I took issue with that, but I understand why he did that. He did that so that he could belittle and passively aggressively torment conservatives who didn't take the shot. I mean, it was weird. The guy was quite bitter. I thought he was on the verge of rage. It was a strange little interview. Now, I don't watch that guy often at all. I watched him a few years ago, and he's definitely not my cup of tea. He's a leftist. I'm not interested in his opinion, so I don't really pay attention to him. But the way he was trying to grab people to watch his stuff, attention getting really, I mean, was that he was apologizing to the conservatives. He actually wasn't. He was actually insulting conservatives because they're not, quote unquote, educated. I would correct him and say, no, the conservatives are not indoctrinated. And I'm sure every conservative has gotten education. It's just not from a leftist college that you might think is the only place you can get a quote unquote education, or as we know it in the real world, indoctrination. So anyway, so this is a neat area. We're just a little closer to the forest range. I don't know how much you can see of it, but there are some really cool, they're probably old glacial valleys that we're looking at over to the, well, they get up out of this hole. I believe that's what they are. They look like a typical glacial valley. Those two valleys right there, if you can see them. Oh, now we're in a hole again. These are not the tallest mountains in Colorado. They're certainly not the tallest mountains in the world. But they're very picturesque. I really like these mountains. So I'd like to just give you a little feel for what this road is all about. And then we'll head back. And so it's a little bit of an extra drive, but it's not bad. So anyway, I'm beating up on Scott Adams because, in my opinion, he was not humble one bit. He was trying to sound humble, but he just sounded arrogant, resentful, and like I said, like sort of thinly veiled passive aggressive. It was really cringy to watch. I would have preferred him to just be mad, really, to just be mad and say, well, you sons of bitches, you're stupid. How did you get this right? We're smart and we got it wrong. I mean, that's what he just should have said. He should have just come up and said that. Because that is his worldview. I mean, maybe he doesn't realize how easily you can see past his clever discussion, right? He's not tricking many people. I'm sure he's tricking a few people, but they're probably mainly on the left. You know, us uneducated people on the right. Of course, you know, a whole lot of us have had college, or we've studied ourselves, or we've had on-the-job training or vocational training, which I know that's what the leftists love to laugh at that stuff because it's not college. You weren't indoctrinated. I mean, educated like we were. Yeah, I've been there. I saw that whole scene. I was underwhelmed. I wasted a couple years of my life. What I should have done, rather than going to college, is I should have started a business. That's what I should have done. Smarter people than me would have started the business and skipped college. So, you know, oh well, live and learn. I did learn because I got out of college and I started my own business. And I wasn't concerned. You know, the trappings of being indoctrinated are that people want to throw money at you. When you're indoctrinated and you go through college and you have that diploma, that is not a diploma that people look at and go, oh, you're educated. That is a piece of paper that says, I'm indoctrinated. And that's what people see. Oh, you're indoctrinated. You're one of the club. You're one of the communists. You're one of the leftists. Sure, we'll give you venture capital. What else do you want? But if you're a conservative, you don't get that. You have to do it on your own. Which brings me to the other video that I watched last night, which was Steven Crowder on Tim Pool's channel. And I like Tim Pool. Well, he's kind of a left kid, but he seems to be growing up. Some of the people that he has on Timcast, like the long-haired hippie type guy, I don't really care for him. But maybe he's like playing the devil's advocate a lot. And so that could be misplaced on my part. But Crowder was on Timcast last night, and it was kind of a disappointing interview. Steven Crowder is doing some pretty big things. He was looking for help from other conservatives, and he found out that a lot of these conservatives are just a bunch of rhinos, and they don't give one crap about conservatism. And Steven Crowder does give a crap about conservatism. That's why he does what he does. And so Steven Crowder's a good guy. I say he's a solid guy. And he went out on his own and set up his business, Bug Club. YouTube tried to kill his channel several times. They demonetized him. They would strike him. He'd fight back. He put himself in a good position, and then he used the power that he had accumulated to fight back, to fight the right people too, not the wrong people. And so he finds that people like Ben Shapiro are rhinos. They only care about money, and worse than that, they are doing the bidding of big tech by penalizing people just like big tech would when they sign a contract. And I completely agree with Steven Crowder. All right, I am back. I must say that this is the best bathroom in North Park. If you're coming this way, stop at the visitor center. They're usually closed on Tuesdays, but I think they have some new hires in there. They're doing some training, so they were open. So for the first time, I was able to go inside, and they've got a really cool, I don't think diorama is the right word, but basically a little 3D map of this area, and it's cool. And by the way, we are now heading back. I'd love to go up the canyon and show you those cool mountains, but for another time. I am, after all, working. Okay, I think we're good. I just ran out of battery. So I immediately pulled off the road. We just left the visitor center, and we're getting ready to go over Owl Ridge, which is an extension of Owl Mountain, which is over to our left right now. But we'll climb over the top of that here in a few minutes and get back. So here's Gould, Colorado. I would kind of like to take my camera into the visitor center and show some of the neat stuff in there. And by the way, I took enough of a look in there while I was there. to find out that yes, this was a mining camp before it turned agricultural. And apparently in World War II, prisoners were housed here in cabins due to a labor shortage around here. So prisoners. I'm assuming when they say prisoners, yeah, they're not talking about like an internment camp where the Japanese were sent, but actual real prisoners of war, I guess. I didn't really look close enough. So this is the main shopping center, I think we just passed, of Gould. Gould is really a laid-back kind of a thing because you don't really see much of Gould. It's sort of off in the trees. You know, they've got a visitor center, like a community center. It's off in the trees. I think they even have a tennis court that I don't think they use. Or maybe it's a basketball court. I don't know. It probably gets used. But it's a really cool, very old-time area of Colorado. It's a very old-time. I mean, the road is probably the most modern thing that was put in here, unless they buried fiber optic line alongside the road. But the majority of these buildings you're looking at, well, you might not be able to see them, but there are a lot of cabins everywhere. And these cabins could have been here for 100 years. We are heading north right now. And we're looking at the foothills of the forest range, which is over to our right now. So north of Michigan, so Michigan Creek, okay, that's right. There's a sign right here, you may not be able to read it, but it says Moose on Road at night, the next 5 miles. And they're not joking. So it's pretty cool that they put that sign out. I like that. You don't want to hit a moose. You know, in a regular car, if you hit a moose, you'll probably be just as injured as the moose because they're tall. They'll come through your windshield. The majority of them are up above your windshield, or at least at windshield level. They're tall creatures. Tall, big creatures. So let's see, I bashed Scott Adams a little bit. I don't know whether he deserves that or not, but that was just my feeling when I watched him, what I had to say about that. And you know, one thing about your feeling, it may not necessarily be true, but that's just the reaction that his video elicited. I am in 4-wheel drive. Okay, need to be here in a moment. So apparently there must have been some hard rock mines here, because they said that the ore wasn't very good. And that's not typically what you say when you're talking about placer mining. Although it stands to reason that they probably found the relatively low gold-bearing ore by first finding placer gold and then following the placer gold. Okay, so now we are on Jackson County, County Road 27. We are going west. This road kind of curves around and snakes around a little bit. It goes mainly west and a little bit south. And I was on this earlier today. I did not like well, I might like it after I looked at it, but the footage didn't look right to me. Well, we just had too much fog and snow. So I wanted to come back this way and catch this road and try to get a better video of it. That's what we're doing right now. But there's one section of road up here that is pretty rough, really annoying. Oh, and another thing I wanted to mention, I listened to my videos before I put them out. And then I listened to them after I put them out, because this is unscripted, and I find that I need to listen to my videos because I catch the idiosyncrasies of my speech when I listen to my videos, and it's not pleasant. I hear the latest one that really annoyed me was the word or the term, you know. And I did also say a lot. And anyway, those are probably the big three. You know is an interesting word, you know. You can use it in that sense, you know. Well, you know. And you can throw it out there like that, sort of like an opening salvo to a sentence. On the other hand, I really don't like hearing myself say, you know, a lot. That really bugs me. Cringy. Not as cringy as Scott Adams' video, but a little bit on the cringy side. Okay. I'm just trying to come up with insults for his video now. Yes, Scott Adams, I am insulting your video. I'm doing it lightheartedly, but honestly, up front. Unlike some people who try to act like they're not insulting somebody when they actually are. And they try to act like they're not mad when they're actually almost seething. Now there's an interesting word, seething. Oh, don't forget so. Oh yes, and by the way, you know, anyway, those, yeah, that's a combination of words that I use. They're like little pivot posts for whatever. I mean, that's how my mind sees them. You might like this. This is pretty cool. We are looking at the circles now, and they are inundated with clouds. They've been all day. Earlier today, they had a maintainer up here and a bulldozer. And over to my left, you saw that all the windrows that they had pushed up. So they basically built a snow fence for that spot. That must be a pretty bad spot. So yeah, I can see rabbit ears from here. Rabbit ears is a little bit over to the left of where, well, let me see. Now we're actually pointing right at rabbit ears. I don't think that the camera can pick it out, but it might. I've noticed one thing about this camera that might make some viewers wonder why I act like I can't see when I'm driving. And what I've noticed is that this camera will see through the snow much better. And I can see through the snow. So when I filmed all of my snow routes, what you saw, if you watched any of those, is much more detailed than what I saw. Somebody got stuck right there. That should scare you. It should scare me. But that's another thing that I've noticed after watching the video. And I'm actually kind of glad that this camera has the ability to have that much attention to detail. It's a good camera. It's a FDR AX100. But it's got a pretty damn big lens and a pretty damn big sensor. You know, a CCD sensor. Or is it a CMOS? Or is it the same thing? Because CMOS is just a metal oxide semiconductor. CCD. I think that's a different term. That's weird also. On the left side of this road, the maintainer cut the ditch really good. Cut it right down to the, to the dirt, but didn't do anything to this side. Maybe he comes to work from that direction and goes home this other direction, the way we're going. Maybe he'll do that this evening. I've got to get over this nasty stuff. There we go. That's much better. I have a bit of a phobia driving in snow that other people haven't driven on, because I don't want to get sucked into a bar ditch. But looking at the width of the road and the way that it's been shaped, I think I can get by with a little of that. This is just a beautiful area here, by the way. The mountains are great, the trees. The road sucks, but everything else is really cool. I suppose the area does make up for the road. Well, I got into it a little bit there. Like that. That's probably why people are going off the road. They're probably trying to dodge these nasty divots, hawk marks, and other really nasty artifacts that make driving very unpleasant. And that guy up there's got the right idea. He says, to hell with wheels, I'll just use the track. Believe me, he probably can go a lot better than me with that, dude. Probably a lot, with a lot less, bump and all that stuff. What's this? I didn't pay attention. Yeah, this is a really bad section of road. It was really bad this morning. I couldn't find a good spot on it. It was just all really bad. But yeah, this would be a great place to live. This is a pretty cool little property here. These guys look like, for the most part, regular people. That's not what I would call a gentrified kind of house. So they're probably normal people and not like stupidly wealthy. And really, Scott Adams, you shouldn't be mad at us conservatives. You have a lot more money than us. Conservatives, for the most part, have less money than leftists. You guys bootstrap other leftists for the cause. You guys are all in on the cause. Conservatives are conservative. No harm in that, no shame in that. Conservative. Don't waste my money. Or if I do, I'm going to waste it in some measured amount of time and terms for a project. I mean, I do that on my business, but I don't have a ton of money. However, when I run out of money, I can't run off to my leftist pals and get more money. You can do that, Scott. So see, you won, actually. I lost. Now I just need to work up some sort of anger and then try to contain my anger and then have the camera on me so you can see that I'm mad, but I'm containing my anger and telling Scott that he won. But for me to do that properly, I would have to come up with an insult. Oh yeah, he went to college. He not only went to college, but apparently has a degree or two. So he's indoctrinated. Meanwhile, I was educated, and when I went to college, I was actually educated in college. I wasn't indoctrinated. I didn't fall for the bullshit, Scott. And I was on the president's list, too, Scott. Yet, I'm still uneducated in your eyes because I don't have my degree. So anyway, if I can come up with other ways to to verbally abuse this guy who I've never met, who's never done anything bad to me, if I can come up with other ways to verbally abuse him, I'll let you know. I'll get back with him on that. That green van has been for sale. You may not have seen it, but there's a green 70s van. It looks like a Ford Econoline. And it does look 70s. And it's been for sale for as long as I've come down this road. It's been about a year. So, why? Oh yeah, I use the words. Why is that van still for sale? It's actually a somewhat desirable van. It looks like it's in relatively good shape. Maybe it isn't. That could be why it's still for sale. Maybe the gentleman selling it has an emotional attachment to it that telegraphed the price he put on it. And so when someone comes to look at it and they get down to business, people get ran off because he wants too much money for it. Maybe he considers it a very extremely rare classic for some reason and can't let go of it for less than like 20 grand or something. This road isn't terribly slippery. It's a little bit slippery. I just stuck it into second. So, The other day I was talking with one of my sisters and her husband. They had been out west of town in Moffat County. They like to go out there and find rocks. There are they found some interesting stuff. They're probably a couple of the most knowledgeable people, educated, I dare say, about the rocks in Moffat County, about some of the geology, because they've been out there and they've seen it. Yes, that was a Scott Adams dig. I told you I'd get back to you if I got one. I did. I'm keeping that on standby in case I find an opportunity. They went out almost into Wyoming in an area where a river called the Little Snake sort of divides the county. It runs northish from Wyoming and cuts down to the southern part of Moffat County. It ends up draining into the Yampa River. That river drains into the Green, and that makes all the big connections before leaving Moffat County. There's some huge canyons out in Moffat County. It's impressive. Moffat County is quite a place. But I don't go that direction for my work. I go out there, for other things. They told me that on this one particular road, there were several hundred antelope going down the road. Apparently there were also deer, and there may have been elk. There may not have been elk, but antelope by the hundreds. And they were all moving along the road because the road has been plowed. It's an easier way for them to get from one feeding ground to the next. And this is a relatively rough winter on the four-legged creatures. So that would be the elk, the moose, the deer, and the antelope. Because we have so much snow. But I did hear that there's quite a bit less out in Moffat County, out northwest Moffat County. So that's a good thing. I'm sure there's plenty. As far as yearly precipitation, the annual whatever they get, they're probably ahead. But I'm glad that there's not so much that the creatures can't get to their food. I've mentioned this before. When years like this happen, when people get wind that the animals are hurting, starving, they usually get together and go out and feed the deer, feed the elk, buy hay, or hay is actually, it could be contributed, who knows. The perception of rural people, I'm segueing, by leftists, city-bound leftists, is extremely untrue, extremely strange. And I think it can be summed up by acknowledging some facts. And I think the first fact is rural people that live on their own, live out in areas like this, where if they do stupid things, they could die just because the weather could kill them. Much more easily than in the city. Deal with reality. They have to understand what's really happening in their area, in their lives, with everything. You can't lie to yourself with any kind of success when you need to be completely factually open to what happens, open to the facts. I don't know how well or how badly I'm saying that. But leftists, people that live in cities and don't understand the rural way of life, don't really need logic or reason, although it would be highly valuable for them, and it would probably change their lives if they were to apply logic and reason and look at current knowledge like it's something good, not just part of the patriarchy. It would change their lives. It would totally change their lives. So I understand. Okay, now we're back on 125. So if we continue on this road north, we'll go right back into Walden, which is kind of cool. Sort of a dividing point. We'll go 4 miles up, and then we'll turn onto County Road 28. So to get back to this thought, rural people don't have the luxury. Rural people don't usually have the luxury to be able to ignore reason and ignore logic in their day-to-day lives. If you're rural and if you're a rancher, you have to face reality. If you're a farmer, you have to face reality. If you live out in a very unforgiving environment, you damn well better at least face that reality, because you could end up freezing to death. If you could end up in bad trouble. People that are in the city apparently don't understand this. They might think they do, but apparently they don't, because they don't really use logic. They don't really use reason. When I say people, I'm talking about leftists. Socialists. Where their worldview is a hallucination. There's no truth to it. If you don't agree with them, they deem you as a Nazi. The funny thing about that is that Nazis were factually socialists, communists. Hitler was a communist. Just because Hitler was a little bit, apparently, I don't even know how they came up with this. They say Hitler was to the right of someone else. That makes him a conservative. Well, that's a bunch of bullshit. However, that is one of the tenets of communism, Marxism, that Nazis are conservatives. However, Nazis are actually socialists. But when you're unhinged from reality and you don't use logic and you don't use reason, you can say stupid things like that, and people do all day, every day, right into microphones with video cameras rolling. They don't understand how stupid they really are. The term useful idiot is a very meaningful phrase. And it didn't come out of nowhere. The people that champion the cause of communism are necessarily useful idiots. If they used their common sense and used their reason, they'd have to quit. They couldn't do it. So how's that pill taste, Scott? And you know what's really funny is that I'm acting like, now we're 28. I'm acting like Scott Adams is going to listen to my video if I even put it out. I don't know that I will. I'm being ridiculous. I'm being lighthearted. I am picking on the guy because he deserves to be picked on. But, you know, he's just another leftist. Leave the guy alone. Don't be mean to him. Let the professionals take care of that. Like me, yeah. Let the professionals like me handle that. Anyway, yeah, I surely I jest and don't call me dream. And other assorted whatever. So this is more of an east-west road. I really like 28. It's usually a good road. This summer it was a little bit annoying because they were doing road work. They were repaving most of 14 that were coming up too. And I would take this road to get around the paving, and that worked out really well. But at some point in time, the trucks started taking this road, or maybe they did all the time, I just didn't notice it. And they beat the hell out of this road, and they also created huge amounts of dust. One day I followed a truck from this end of the road to the other end, which I believe is 11 miles. And my air cleaner light, or my check engine light came on. My air cleaner was clogged with dust. So a pretty dusty road. I don't think they believe in mag chloride here. They may not have the budget for it. This is not a wealthy county. But they take care of their roads so much better than Routt County takes care of its roads. And Routt County is probably the most wealthy county. Definitely in northwest Colorado. They probably have to compete with Eagle County, with, you know, the other big ski resort towns. They're probably all pretty close. Again, all that leftist money. For those of you animal watchers, I have seen antelope, elk, deer, moose on these roads. I haven't seen any bear. I'm sure that there are bears here, but I haven't seen any. I believe I've seen coyotes, maybe a wolf, maybe a coyote. There's a big push to reintroduce wolves into this area, and I think that's pretty stupid. Wolves have a nasty habit. Well, dog packs will do that too. They have a nasty habit of, in a group, chasing down and killing several creatures and not eating any of them, or eating very few of them. They just want to kill. It's certainly a way to thin the herd. And if that happens in nature, then, there's symmetry most likely to that happening. But when you're a rancher and you pay for your cows and you pay for your sheep, and you have a wolf pack come in and decimate your herd, that's not symmetry. That's bad, very bad. But the same people that want to see this country destroyed are the same people that want to reintroduce wolves into society. It's kind of funny how it all works. But you can really tell if a bill is a left or a right kind of a bill. Well, let me change that. A conservative or a communist. Yeah, that's probably a better way to put it. Bill. By what it will do. I mean, if it hurts the public and it stifles industry, it's a communist bill. And it's put in place just for that. I'm convinced that the communists don't give a shit about racism, about prejudice. I've talked about that before. About the environment, the global warming scam. I don't think they give a shit about anything like that. I think everything that they do is to manipulate themselves into power so that they can rule over other people. That's a big bird on that telephone pole. Big bird, big eagle. Big eagle. And a lot of these things, people will admit that. Global, okay, maybe not a lot, but actually, no, probably a lot. You talk to the right person at the right time, and they'll admit it. We're trying to kill business. We're trying to kill industry. We're trying to destroy freedom. We think that your patriarchy sucks. We want to change it. I did have a somewhat annoying thought over the weekend also. I am angry with leftists. I am angry with what the Democrats and the Republicans did in stealing the election from Donald Trump and from Kari Lake and from several other people. And that's my sincere, honest opinion that that's what they did. And there are the receipts to back that up, some will say, because it's not untrue. I'm angry at these people. So I have to question myself. As a conservative, I believe in God. I don't know if I would say I was much of a Christian, but I believe in those values. They make the most sense to me. Live and let live, really. Treat someone else the way you want to be treated. That's basically it. But I wonder if I truly, actually, honest to gosh, hate leftists. I think yes and no is actually the answer to that. I think there are some that it's hard not to hate because of the horrible things that they do. Then I think a whole bunch of the leftists are misguided, just very misguided people. You know, they were the seeds that were sown on rocky, barren ground. I guess that's a pretty cool way to express that thought. And they have this ideology, which is toxic. It's toxic. It's like the touch of death. You know, like if you actually have the touch of death and everything you touched died. That's kind of the ideology. That's kind of like what communism would be if it were that kind of a magical thing, you know. That if you had the magic of communism in you, you could touch things and they would die and wilt. Flowers would wilt, people would fall, you know, pass out. So I think it's safe to say that communists hate everyone that is not a communist. But I also think that plays into the ideology because when they rule, when they're able to rule, they all want to pay back those people, their perceived enemies, the enemies that they basically made up, really, or they did their best to cultivate. That's why I say I would rather not talk about politics on my little channel, but politics comes and finds me anymore. And it doesn't do that without a push from some direction. And that push is from the left. They want to make you their enemy or their subject. And they want to know that you are their enemy or their subject. And they probably want to know that because when they have the power that they so desperately want, they will then know who to pay back. And I believe that's how they think. I think it's a very bitter, hateful rhetoric. So I think that leftists are definitely better at hating and probably welcome that kind of an emotion, hate. I think that that's part of their platform. Conservatives aren't that way. We don't hate anybody. We want everyone to do their best, including these communists. We'd love to see them, you know, renounce communism and become a freedom-loving person. But we don't dox them, we don't out them, we don't tar and feather them, we don't do any kind of injury to them. But they do to us all the time. Or they do to themselves too. I mean, the left is a very violent, immature club. And the people that are in power, I think they love them. The Pelosi's, you know, the people that have the ability to direct violence in other people with just a sentence. I think they love it. But I ask myself that question, do I hate these people? Some of them, I think I do. I certainly hate communism. I hate the ideology. But I don't think that I actually hate the people. I mean, other than, like I said, maybe a couple people that have done extremely heinous, horrible things. All right. So we have now successfully getting to it, right? Across the bottom leg of this triangle. leaving County Road 28, getting back onto 14. Oh, I see a car coming. Well, I guess we're just going to have to go. I got to get speed limit is 65 here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 cars behind me. That's great. Now, I might hate driving, or I might hate traffic. Actually, I like driving. I don't think I hate traffic yet. But, maybe give me a few more months doing this, and I might just hate traffic pretty darn good. Well, I think I've talked about everything that I wanted to talk about today. I think I picked on Scott Adams a lot. That was a lot of fun. I don't mean anything by it. It's just fun. He is. I mean, if you saw what he had to say, he pretty much picked on himself. I mean, not in the way he intended either. Just in a very cringy, weird way. Yeah, and Crowder, I love what he's doing. I hope that he can find good people in this movement. Conservatism. I give him a contract, but I don't have any money. And he'd have to ride around with me in this car, apparently. So I'm going to sign off now, listen to some nice music, and work my way over Rabbit Ears Pass, through Steamboat, and back home to Craig. And I will talk to y'all later. If you're out there driving one of these days, drive carefully. Stay the hell away from traffic, if you can. If you can't, well, enjoy it as much as you can. Yes. Anyway, take care. One more thing. We're getting ready to drop down into this valley where these plants look really, this brush is really a pretty color. Now this morning it was all coated with ice. I don't know if it's going to change the coloring of it. I have a feeling it's been coated with ice, a few times before. Definitely been in some cold temperatures. But I figure I can run the camera for a couple more minutes if we can catch it. If I can get a good view of it, it's really beautiful stuff. The light might not be right, but on the other hand, the light might be perfect. I really don't know. But this is a little valley with some of that brush in it. That's not really the main valley. The main valley is up over this hill, and we drop down into it, and it's really cool. But I think it's just going to be depending on the light and if the temperature messes with it. So, but I can certainly run the camera. Although I was listening to some Creedence Clearwater Revival when I had to stop that song, pause it for this. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, this is a neat valley to drop in. It's just a cool view. Kind of gives a view of the multicolor. I'm in love with this stuff. It is so gorgeous. Yeah, it's not bad. Quite pretty. That works well, I think, because when we're looking at the light down, well, the light's just at the right angle, I guess. But it's just beautiful stuff. I would watch a 1-hour science-based show where people researched and studied that plant and then came up with what they believed was why it looks the way it does. I get the feeling that this might be a good placer bearing area right in this area. Coming off of Rabbit Ears, all these volcanic mountains, where there is a lot of gold. For that matter, Gore Range. Which is a little south of here. There's supposed to be some pretty amazing finds from Gore Range. And I actually have some family information. My cousin's mom has family up here, had family up here in Yampa. I don't really recall how the story went, but the important parts of the story were that they went to visit the people in Yampa, a ranch near Yampa. They drove around the ranch. They drove through muddy creeks and things like that, ranch roads or whatever. And I don't know whether the people that owned the ranch were driving them around or whether they were driving from Denver, a car they had driven from Denver. I'd assume maybe the rancher was driving them around. However, they ended up getting a bunch of mud on the truck, and the story goes that when that truck was cleaned, whether it was here or whether it was in Denver, it was cleaned by hand. I guess most things are. Well, this was probably like a 40 or 50 or 60 years ago story. They cleaned it, assuming with the hose. As they were cleaning the dirt up from the truck, they found gold nuggets. So it certainly can happen around here. And that was the Gore Range. So there's an older story about the Gore Range where an army detail was going through there, cavalry. I think it was actually with Gore. I don't know what position he had, but he was probably an uppity up of some kind. And one of the men spotted some gold thing in the jigger and went up to it and found it. It was like a big gold crystal on a rock somewhere. Now apparently oh yeah, caught it. I'm not in four-wheel drive, so I heard someone, a guy that works at the museum, did a speech about the gold around in Moffat County, the history of it, and he said that apparently the guy that found that spike, that big crystalline chunk of gold, noted where he found it and was of sufficient means that he was able to come back a year later with other people, and he could not find it. Apparently he had, he was going to do a thing. I mean, why not, But he never found it. So I do believe that there is gold over there. It's a volcanic region. It might just be hit or miss. It could be that, oh, there I used my It may be hit or miss, and it might be hard to Nice, they're putting some good snow fences in here. Probably don't want people to keep wrecking off the road here. That might help a little bit. Anyway, there's a lot of gold in this area. And so this area could also have gold in it. Pretty much anywhere in northern Moffat County, north of Craig, hell, even south of Craig, you can find gold. It's flour gold. It's extremely fine. Weird thing about it, I didn't know this until just recently, that it's very fine, but it's also very angular. That's weird, because you wouldn't think, you shouldn't find angular gold in placer deposits unless it didn't have to move at all. That's a strange, when I said again. That's a strange one though. So, more things to mull over. I'm not sure whether I want to put this thing in full drive, so I think I will. And if I need it, I'll have it. Anyway, okay, so I wanted to film that little segment. We're back on East Rabbit Ears. It looks pretty nice today. I'm not going to film it, so I'll talk to you later. Bye.